Well, my next guest has an inspiring story. It took him from the battlefield all the way to the boardroom. Mark Wales is a former SAS Commander who served in Afghanistan. He's fought his own internal battles, mental health battles. He studied at an Ivy League college in the United States. He's even appeared on a reality TV show. That was Survivor. And he's founded his own fashion startup. Now, he's just released a book. It's called Survivor: Life in the SAS, which goes into the details of his escape from a situation that started to go wrong in Afghanistan and his mission to rebuild himself into a business person and a better person. Mark joins me tonight, and I'm delighted to say welcome to the Bolt Report.
Hey, Cory, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Now, obviously there's a brotherhood in the SAS, and as soon as your brothers knew you were coming on the show, they hit me with emails, text messages and phone calls saying, ask him this, and ask him that. Before I get to the meat of your book, I want to deal with your fashion empire. Is it true that a Prime Minister is wearing one of your leather jackets somewhere?
There is a former Prime Minister wearing one somewhere, and there's a couple of former generals and I think an ex-intelligence chief. So we've got some good kind of top service people cornered.
And now tell me, just confirm this, it's not Malcolm Turnbull wearing that leather jacket on the ABC program, is it? Because you know, you might lose people on that one.
It is not. It's Tony Abbott. He was kind enough to grab one, and Andrew Hastie did as well. So they both are the proud owners of one of our jackets.
That's fantastic. I'm sure they wear it unbelievably well. But tell me about your own journey. You went to Afghanistan as a troop commander. You'd had, I think, in your first tour, you lost a mentor and a dear friend. That must have had a huge impact on you personally.
It did, yeah. I mean, I had wanted to join the SAS since I was in grade 9, basically a kid, and I'd worked hard to get into that position. It took about a decade. And I think heading over to Afghanistan, it was 2007, I had no real idea what we were going to encounter, but I knew that the Australian SAS had done really well over there. We'd had a lot of encounters with the enemy. A lot of the fighting had gone quite well, you know, really in our favour. The unit had acquitted itself well. And so when we went over and started encountering some of these small enemy actions and some of the larger clearances we were doing as a force, I was impressed at the enemy and just how organised and disciplined and focused they were. They didn't care about our level of kind of training and equipment and everything. They were more than happy to fight us. So, yeah, for me, it was a big shock kind of going to those early battles and really that trial by fire. I'll never forget it.
And nor should Australians, let me tell you, because the service that the SAS and all Australian troops showed in Afghanistan is extraordinary, and many will cast judgments in whether it was worth it or not. But you guys, to me, are among the bravest and most courageous and skilled people anywhere in the world. And yet your book talks about the bravery and it talks about the skill, but it also talks about the incredible human toll that it took upon you and others, that you faced your own battles in respect to some of the issues you were dealing with. And so just briefly, talk me through that and the viewers through that.
Yeah, I felt like that was an important part to talk about. I felt like some of the military biographies I'd read, some of the more modern ones, tend to kind of gloss over that part of it. I think that any fighting has a big impact on you as a person, and it was always something I wanted to hear about when I was a kid. And whenever I read books, I could never quite get deep into those layers. The authors didn't seem to want to go there. So I made sure I spent a bit of time talking about being in combat and what I thought and felt at the time. And then when I came out of it, just the experience of trying to hold myself together to go back and keep working and do repeated tours. It took a lot of effort, took a lot of work, and it took a bit of humility saying, I can't quite do this on my own all the time, and that's okay, but I need to kind of knuckle down, fix myself in order to keep supporting my mates, and that's kind of what I'm most proud of in a lot of ways.
But your story is a story of resilience, about pulling yourself together in adversity, both in Afghanistan but afterwards as well. You leave the service, you go to an Ivy League university where you have a few battles there as well. You end up at McKinsey, one of the toughest shops anywhere in the world, management consulting, and you battle again there. But it's a huge achievement. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think having lost my mum when I was young, I was only about 23. My mum was only 50. I think that I kind of believed then that maybe I won't have a long life. And then being in the SAS and surviving through those tours and knowing a few guys that died, obviously, I felt like after the military I was trying to live for them as well. So I think in some ways I was trying to outrun what had happened to me. And one of the easiest ways to do that was to try and put myself through these, these tough obstacles. But it also helped, and I'm glad I did it while I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. I was doing some fun things too, so it was great.
Well, you've done some extraordinary things. As I said, a fashion label, now an author, a management consultant, a father, a reality star host. So I've got two questions for you before I've got to let you go. What was Survivor like, firstly? Because I've always said I would slay it, but that's probably not the case. And two, give me one story from the Fat Lady Bar in Afghanistan.
Well, Survivor's actually really hard. It looks pretty easy when you're on your couch and you're watching it, and I thought that too. And then when I went out there and played, you realise that they actually push you through the elements, and you really are under the pump. You're not eating, and it's quite treacherous, but a lot of fun. It's just entertainment. So I really loved it, and I met my wife there, so it was a bonus. And then story from the Fat Lady's Arms. Well, between helicopter missions, sometimes we'd have a drink there. Most of the time it was authorised, but I remember going in one night, and I noticed year by year there were more and more artifacts from the war. There was a lot of history in that place. A lot of the battles we've been involved in. You could see the evidence of the photos, and all that was there. So it became a real museum, and I actually loved it. I mean, I know it's got a bad reputation in the media, but all the times I was there were never any issues. It was just soldiers in wartime having a beer, which you wouldn't think would be a bad thing, but for me it was a great place.
Yeah. Well, Mark Wales, I'm grateful for your time tonight on the Bolt Report, but I'm grateful to you and all your colleagues and all the servicemen and women who did us so proud in Afghanistan and continue to do us proud in everyday life. Thanks for your time. Survivor, Life in the SAS is a cracker book. Go and get it from wherever you can, because it's well worth a read. It gives you an insight into a truly extraordinary story. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Thanks, Cory.